So each and every week, Rob and I talk all things property. But for those who stick with us each episode, you know that we get into a top resource each week, something we call Hub Extra. Well, this week, we've got the best of Hub Extra, all our favourite books, podcasts, and more that you need in your life coming up.
Welcome to the Property Podcast, where every Thursday property investors come to be informed and inspired. This is one of our favourite episodes to put together. We do it every year and we love it. So many great discoveries we've made this year, and we're going to be sharing them all with you in just a moment. What better Christmas gift could you give a property investor than a whole year of case studies, in-depth features, interviews, and location guides? Well, clearly there is nothing better, and you can give that perfect gift by gifting a subscription to the Property Hub magazine. We've made it dead easy for you to pay for a whole year up front and give a code to your property-loving friend or family member so they can go and activate their subscription and start getting that property knowledge dropping through their letterbox every other month. All you need to do is go to propertyhub.net/gift. That's propertyhub.net/gift.
Rob, I'm so excited. It's the podcast that we always look forward to when the year starts, even though we do it at the end of the year. And it's a podcast that, although it has very little to do with property, we know is one of the most popular podcasts we do each year, which is a bit worrying.
Yeah, it is really, because we're not talking about property. We're not giving you anything that will help you succeed in life or business, but we are rounding up the best of Hub Extra, our favourite resources of 2019. We do this every year. We always get a great response. We do it just before Christmas, so you can use it for last minute gift ideas. And I love it because it's a chance to go back and think through all the things I've enjoyed this year, which is loads. It's been a really great year, actually. And Rob, I always pick up some new tips from yours as well. So we're going to talk about books, podcasts, YouTube, TV, and apps and tech. Let's get started with books, shall we? What's your first pick?
Yeah, books has been really strong for me this year. 2019 has been a good book year. I remember 2018 getting to the end and thinking, wow, I've really struggled this year. But I don't know if it's luck, but this year it was so hard to make a shortlist. There were so many books that could have made this list. So the first book on my list, Rob, is called Bitcoin Billionaires. And that's by Ben Mezrich. Bitcoin Billionaires follows the story of the Winklevoss twins, and you may remember that name because they were featured heavily in the film The Social Network. That book that was adapted into a film was very famous, and in that film, the Winklevoss twins don't come out of it too well. Well, what's really interesting is that the author seems to have changed his mind as time's gone on and actually looked at what they've done and hasn't made them out to be a pair of clowns, which they kind of do come across a bit in that film. It's a fascinating story of how they deal with that period of time with Mark Zuckerberg, how they are awarded a lot of money through compensation, but ultimately don't get to keep Facebook, and how they deal with that and move on. Because that could be the defining story for many people. You know, we made a lot of money and we stopped. But actually, that was just the beginning for the twins. And it's a fantastic book of their story and the rise of Bitcoin. And the author's done a great job of weaving those two stories together. Highly recommended. It's super entertaining.
A massive open pit, jammed with nearly 100,000 people, sprawled out in front of a huge raised stage, reverberated through the air, so loud that even from the dock behind the main stage, each note threatened to crack the very air. Now this is how you make an entrance, Tyler thought to himself as he stepped off the edge of a London grey 88-foot Riva motor yacht and onto the dock.
I don't know how we've never talked about that book before. Like, that sounds so up my street. It's unbelievable. I'm going to be checking that out straight away after we've finished recording this.
So I've given you one, Rob. Give me a new one.
I won't give you a new one, Rob. I'll give you an old one that I happen to know because we've talked about it before that you haven't read yet. It's Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. And this is a chunky book, and as it should be, it covers the whole of human history from the very beginning of evolution to the present day. Not something that you can really fit into a pamphlet. But I put off reading it for a good 3-4 years because wrongly I tend to go onto Amazon and look at the page count of a book and it said something like 900 and something. I don't know if I'm up for that. But actually, it was super readable and so interesting, especially the first third of the book where it's talking about the very earliest humans. I didn't even know that there used to be multiple species of humans before Homo sapiens became basically the only one, possibly by killing off all the others. We're not quite sure, but the book goes into all that. But it's really fascinating. He makes it so accessible for what's quite a difficult subject. So strongly recommend you don't leave it as long as I did before checking that one out.
Biologists label organisms with a two-part Latin name, genus followed by species. Lions, for example, are called Panthera leo, the species Leo of the genus Panthera. Presumably, everyone listening to this book is a Homo sapiens, the species sapiens, wise, of the genus Homo, man.
Yeah, I have to say I'm guilty as well, Rob. I actually own that book, and I've owned it for a long time. But I just look at it and go, wow, that's intimidating. So you've pushed me. I will pick it up and start to read. At least the first third. A book, actually, Rob, that I'm recommending, but I am recommending it because you put me onto it, is The Ultimate Blueprint for an Insanely Successful Business. Bit of a long title and kind of doesn't really explain what the book's about. The book ultimately is about finance in business or your financial reporting. And why am I recommending it? Well, I feel like I've pretty much read every business book under the sun, and so many feel the same now. It's the same stuff said in different ways. So it was nice to pick up a book that was just completely different and gave you actionable advice. It made a huge difference for us and our business and how we view numbers and how we will report on them moving forward. And because it made such a strong impact on us and the business, it has to make my list because it's been a while since I've been excited by a business book. It's by Keith Cunningham. If you own a business or you're interested in business, then put it on your list. It's a great read.
Yeah, if we say it'll get you excited about business metrics and accounting, you'll probably think we're crazy. But if you read the book, I think you might just end up agreeing with us. Another book that I really enjoyed this year, on a completely different note, was Tiger Woods by Jeff Benedict. The name kind of gives away what this was about. It's about Tiger and all his successes and all his failures and all his comebacks. It's a really amazing story. Tiger didn't give any input into the book, but lots of people around him did. And it seems to do a good job of not glossing over anything, but not vilifying him and kind of giving you an insight into what a complex person he is. A couple of years ago, I recommended Open, the Andre Agassi autobiography, and there's a lot of similarity here in their childhoods and how they ended up in later life. So you don't have to have any interest whatsoever in golf to enjoy this book. I don't. But if you've got an interest in successful people and what drives them to be so successful and the dark side of that, really worth having a read.
Tiger Woods was the kind of transcendent star that comes around about as often as Halley's Comet. By almost any measure, he's the most talented golfer who ever lived and arguably the greatest individual athlete in modern history.
The next book on my list is The Spy and the Traitor by Ben McIntyre. This is a gripping book. It's so good that you struggle to believe it's a true story. But it is, and that's what makes it even better when you realise that this is a true story. It's incredible. It's actually amazing that this story isn't more widely known. It's a phenomenal tale, and it's about a Cold War spy. I don't want to say too much about it, because if you've not read or listened to this book, and I listened to it and it was really, really good on Audible, get it for Christmas, or get it for somebody for Christmas, because it's the type of book that will appeal to pretty much anyone who enjoys reading. Rob, I know I recommended it to you and you picked it up and you loved it as well.
Yeah, like you said, if it was a fiction book, it'd be really good. But the fact it's actually true is crazy. And it's a whole period of history that I didn't really know anything about. So I really enjoyed learning about everything else that was happening at that time as well. Definitely worth strongly recommending.
As the most senior Soviet intelligence operative in Britain, Gordievsky would henceforth have access to the innermost secrets of Russian espionage. He would be able to inform the West what the KGB was planning to do before it did it. The KGB in Britain would be neutered.
And another book that we've already strongly recommended this year is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. We don't need to talk about this too much now because we recorded a whole episode about this book. Back in episode 325, we had an episode called 6 Lessons from a Hard Mofo, where we round up some of the ideas from this book. The great thing about this book is it's 2 in 1. It's, again, an unbelievable true story, but it's also a self-improvement book in that there's so many motivating ideas in there as well. So go back and check out episode 325 and definitely pick up the book as well.
We found hell in a beautiful neighborhood. In 1981, Williamsville offered the tastiest real estate in Buffalo, New York. Leafy and friendly, its safe streets were dotted with dainty homes filled with model citizens. Doctors, attorneys, steel plant executives, Dentists and professional football players lived there, with their adoring wives and their 2.2 kids. Cars were new, roads swept, possibilities endless. We're talking about a living, breathing American dream. Hell was a corner lot on Paradise Road.
Okay, so plenty of books for you to be purchasing on Amazon or Audible, but we love podcasts as well. And yes, we tell you about other people's podcasts because we are podcast addicts. We just love listening to podcasts. And here are a few others for you to consider while you're waiting for the next property podcast to pop into your feed. One I've mentioned before, but I still love, so it has to stay on the list for me, is Masters of Scale by Reid Hoffman. Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, part of the PayPal Mafia, super successful guy, and interviews incredible people. So he's had Mark Zuckerberg on the show before, he's had Sheryl Sandberg, but more recently he's had Bill Gates. I love this podcast. As somebody who loves business and loves to hear stories of others who have been there and done it, this podcast just ticks all the boxes for me. But I also love the way that Reid takes these incredible stories and journeys and turns them into actionable lessons that you can use in your own business.
I'll show you what really goes on behind the scenes as companies grow from 0 to a gazillion. At times it's a dogfight.
I was absolutely convinced that this would bankrupt the company.
At times, sketch comedy.
What if we created a Barack Obama-themed breakfast cereal? And we thought, what would a Barack Obama-themed breakfast cereal be called? Obama O's, like Cheerios, the breakfast of change.
A podcast that my wife got into this year and she put me onto, and I'm really glad she did, is Heavyweight. Heavyweight is by a podcast network called Gimlet, who we've talked about recently, because they also produce the Startup podcast, which is about the story of how Gimlet came to be and how they ended up eventually selling the company to Spotify. But Heavyweight is one of their other podcasts. And really, this one is all about the host. Jonathan Goldstein, who presents this, is hilarious. He's so funny. And he also tells some great stories. The concept of the show is that every week he takes a different person and takes them back to a moment from their past that they can't get over in some way. Either it's affected the rest of their life or it's a mystery and something they've always wondered about. And he tries to help them resolve that issue, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. But because he's so funny, it's just such an enjoyable listen. You'll end up smiling on the tube if you're listening to it on your way to work, and everyone in London will think you're really weird, and you get half the carriage to yourself because they'll think you're a nutter. So definitely worth listening to on lots of different levels.
Let's say there was a show about someone who helped people go back into the past to fix their problems. Do you think you would be interested in such a show?
If we think about the past, we can really move forward.
I believe everybody have a second chance. Everybody fighting demons.
Another one I've loved this year is Darknet Diaries. It's a really interesting podcast about the dark side of the internet. And the stories that are told here are incredible. They're true stories of hacking and digital espionage. And again, I just can't believe some of the stories that are told here aren't more widely known and more public. The host is fantastic. The podcast is really well produced. If you enjoy The Spy and the Traitor, I think you'll really enjoy Darknet Diaries. Two completely different eras, but the tricks don't change. It's just the tech. It's really good. Check it out. You will not be disappointed.
You're probably already aware the FBI has a top 10 most wanted criminals list. But what you may not know is the FBI also puts out a Cyber's most wanted list, which is a list of FBI's most wanted hackers. Jabbar and his team are about to raid the house of one of FBI's Cyber's most wanted.
And Rob, I wasn't disappointed when you recommended The Missing Crypto Queen a few weeks ago. After you recommended that podcast, I went and picked it up and I couldn't put it down. In fact, I went on a 2-day binge and finished it because it was so good.
Yeah, I think it was actually a listener who recommended this to me. So thank you to whoever it was. And I've been passing it on to all and sundry because it is that compelling. It's an 8-part series from the BBC trying to track down a lady who started a cryptocurrency, which pulled in literally billions of euros from people all over the world, all investing in this digital currency. And then one day she disappeared and has never been seen since. It's really mad because it's such a huge scam. but a really clever scam. The way that it played on people's emotions and wanting to be a part of something bigger and their hopes and dreams to get them to buy into something, which if you know the slightest thing about cryptocurrency, you'll know is complete nonsense, was really quite something. But I really enjoy these little podcast mini-series, just telling a story over 6-8 episodes. There's actually another one I'm listening to now, which I'm going to save for next year because I haven't finished it yet. But I really enjoy that kind of podcast format. So if you haven't listened to the Missing Crypto Queen, then do, but do it on a day when you don't have too much else planned, because you might end up listening to more than you first planned.
Dr. Ruja promised to make the world rich through a revolutionary new cryptocurrency.
I believe what makes us different is our vision. We are more than just one coin.
Spreading the OneCoin gospel, arguing with bankers and gaining legions of devoted followers. Her company made billions from global investors. And then, 2 years ago, she disappeared.
So, on this show, we never had a category for YouTube before. But we do this year because, certainly for myself anyway, I've really gotten into YouTube. I've never used to see the attraction or the appeal. I used to just think it was kids chatting away about their lives and not really much else going on there. But as we found by contributing on YouTube ourselves, but also now as a consumer, there's loads on there. The YouTube algorithm is incredible because once it learns what you like, it just feeds you videos that are similar to it. But it's scary how good it is. And I've ended up watching things I thought I had no interest in. Really random stuff. And the first one on my list is completely random because I did go looking for this, but somehow it ended up in my feed, and now I love watching these videos, is the YouTuber called Aquaholic. This is a guy who goes round and videos himself touring yachts and super yachts. And he does the full range. He'll do, sort of small ones that are a few 100,000 to super yachts that are tens of millions. And he does the full spectrum. I really like his style. I really like the way he puts it together. He's very likable. Comes across as just a normal, humble guy. That kind of world for many will be intimidating, but he seems to make it accessible, and it's a way of just having a nosy round these beautiful boats and just getting a sense of what it'd be like to experience them. I don't know why I ended up watching these videos, but I do know why I've continued to watch them, because they are really entertaining. So take a look. Aquaholic, great YouTube channel, and beautiful, beautiful boats.
Video this at the Southampton Boat Show last year, but I never really felt I did it justice. So when Princess Motor Yacht Sales called me up and said, we've got one here in Swanwick, do you want to come and do a video? I jumped at the chance. So we're going to start on the back, and I love this huge bathing platform with these lounges that they put out on it. So I can have a little sit on here. Can you imagine being here in the Med in a nice bay with your view out at water level? How cool would that be?
Well, one of the best things about YouTube, I think, is that much like podcasts, there's a niche for everything. Even if you're into something quite obscure, there's somebody making really high quality content on that subject. And a good example of that I've picked out is called City Beautiful, which is about urban planning, which is super duper niche. It's not the kind of thing that anyone's ever going to really make a TV show about, but there is a YouTube channel for it. And what I love about this is it's presented by the most enthusiastic man in the world. I love it when you get a presenter who clearly is absolutely obsessed with their subject and finds it totally fascinating. So it's his enthusiasm that really carries the whole thing. So you only have to be marginally interested in city planning to find it enjoyable. And Rob, I know you're a big fan of Disney, and he's actually done a couple of videos about the urban planning of Disney World. So you might want to start with those episodes.
Walt Disney World is set on 27,000 acres in Central Florida, roughly the size of the city of San Francisco. It's also the most visited resort in the world. Its impressive size and record-setting visitor attendance are amazing, for sure.
But what might be even more amazing, especially to a city planning nerd like me, is the special district that gives Disney unprecedented control over its land and municipal services. This video tells that story of how the special district came to be and how Disney uses it to control its parks.
The next channel I'm recommending is History Matters. These are brilliant videos. They are so clever, sharp, witty. It's got the lot. What they do is they take periods of history and sum them up in about 10 minutes. It's all done through basic cartoons and images, but it is so well put together, so snappy, so well edited that you just end up consuming loads. And it's amazing how much you can learn about a period of history in 10 minutes or less. I think it's the fact that they are limited, most of them, to just 10 minutes, that makes them so accessible and so enjoyable. If you have any interest in history, then check out History Matters. It's a really, really good YouTube channel.
55 BC and Julius Caesar has just arrived on the southern coast of Britain. He did this shortly after his conquest of Gaul, which was here. He likely did so because of the close ties between the inhabitants of Britain, known then as Britannia, and those of Gaul.
And another one that you actually put me onto originally, Rob, is Jay Foreman. He describes his channel as very silly educational videos, which is 100% spot on, really. He's got a series called Unfinished London, which is about town planning gone wrong, all the strange way that London has evolved over time. And another series called Map Men, which is about maps, as you might have thought.
But it is brilliant. I know it sounds geeky, but it's brilliant.
It sounds boring / bonkers, but it's just absolutely brilliant. I've talked a lot today about great presenters, and he is just so funny. It's quite Monty Python-esque. It's really bizarre, really silly, but it's educational as well. You might not think that a video about geography sounds that funny, but I don't think I laugh as much at anything as I do at his videos. So Jay Foreman gets a massive recommendation from me.
Here at Map Men, we love a good globe.
Because it's a map, but also a toy.
But globes aren't very convenient because they're bulky and difficult to carry around.
Unless your friends attach one to your head for your stag do and make you wear it all around Bristol.
So, if you want the world in a book, or a poster, or a shower curtain, that globe is going to have to be flattened.
Another channel that has to get a big recommendation from us is Mike Winnett. Mike Winnett we interviewed on the podcast earlier this year, and he is exposing what he calls contrapreneurs, people who are selling big dreams, big hopes and promises, possibly not delivering on them. His channel is doing a lot of good work. We talked about the Crypto Queen earlier and how it focuses on a scam around cryptocurrency. Mike is looking at all the get-rich-quick schemes and seeing if they work and then documenting the results. Go and listen to the two-part special that we had with Mike earlier this year if you haven't already, and then go and check out his YouTube channel as well and make sure you subscribe, because more people need to understand what is happening out there and how so many people are being conned out of their hard-earned money just because they've got hopes and dreams. It's awful what's going on, but it's great what he's doing.
So I'm at this guy's show now. He just said he doesn't believe in get-rich-quick schemes, and now he's just sold us a discounted price on how we can get a £10 million business in 8 months. One word: entrepreneur.
And I feel like in this episode we're giving some insights into the strange things that we're into outside property and some insights into our lives that we probably shouldn't give. But I'll go a step further and recommend the PokerStars YouTube channel, because yes, I like to spend my evenings watching other people play poker for hours on end. Before I started watching, I was aware that watching people play poker was a thing that people did, and I just thought it was the weirdest thing to do ever. But a friend recommended it to me because I was learning how to play poker myself, and I got super into it. I just find it really, really compelling, even though you're mostly just watching a load of ugly blokes just sitting there inside wearing sunglasses, not doing very much. But from a strategic point of view, it's really interesting. And PokerStars in particular has got a commentator who's always making the worst cheesy jokes ever, which really livens it up as well. And all the comments on YouTube are about how terrible he is and how rubbish his jokes are, but I love them. I don't know what that says about me, but I find it really enjoyable.
Got in trouble. What are you going to do?
Whoever wins this hand wins the duel.
Please.
Let's see the river.
He's the best in the world at what he does, but I'm here to beat him at poker.
Okay, so that's YouTube. But there is this old device called a TV. I have enjoyed TV this year, and I have watched a lot of it. I've enjoyed the typical stuff like Billions. I've enjoyed Netflix. There's loads of good stuff on there and some great documentaries. But I've not got anything that I feel passionate about that I've got to suggest or recommend. So what have you got? Have you got anything on your list for TV that people should check out?
I've got a couple of bits. I'd actually forgotten about Billions, or that would have been on my list, but that was right back at the start of the year. I've still, to my shame, been watching $1 Million Listing New York. There is a new series of that this year. So cheesy, but really good fun. And it's a way of watching reality TV while kind of feeling like you're doing some property research, maybe? No, it's a stretch, but I enjoyed it anyway.
Wow, wow, wow.
Now this is an entrance.
This is New York.
Oh my God, this kitchen.
Whoa! This is the first porthole in a shower I've ever seen.
I do like to come home to large balls.
If you got any buyers for this apartment, it's under $12 million.
17.2. 20 million.
45. I have to go to work.
But a far more quality piece of programming that I really enjoyed this year was a Netflix series called Formula One Drive to Survive. And it's a documentary going behind the scenes of Formula One, basically. And it gives you a real insight into the scale and the logistics of the whole thing and how they move this enormous production around the world. It also gets you close to the drivers and the teams and shows you what it takes for them to prepare and all the rivalries and different things that are going on. It's really, really well done, and there are so many great stories in there. And it's just interesting watching such a collection of ludicrously ambitious people, which all Formula One drivers are, how they interact and how they compete. So strong recommendation.
I love the danger, that adrenaline and that excitement.
They have crashed! They've gone into each other!
I'll do anything I can to get the best results possible. I'm not worried about dying.
So, of course, no resources wrap-up would be done without us referring to a bit of tech, because we are geeks. So this year, a bit of tech that I've really enjoyed is the AirPods. So I used to see people with AirPods walking around and I thought, they look daft, I fancy a bit of that. And I've joined that club. But they're great. They work so well with the iPhone. The sound is great. I don't know why they're better than any other wireless speakers, and maybe I'm just been brainwashed by the marketing, but I really just enjoy using them. They charge so quickly, and I prefer doing calls through them now. I can just do things on the move while I'm making a phone call, and I make a lot of phone calls. So AirPods, you may see people wearing them, you may feel they're a bit daft, and I don't blame you if you do, but I really, really like them.
I've never really understood what the issue is with having a little wire connecting the two sides, but maybe there is something I'm missing. But what I think is really interesting is about a year ago, I did think they looked really daft, but now I'm so used to seeing them that it doesn't look silly to me anymore. It's kind of funny how you get used to things and your perceptions change. One app that I used for the first time at the end of last year, over last Christmas actually, is Getaround, which is basically Airbnb for cars. In that if you want to, you can list your own car on there for people to hire. But the way I use it is to hire cars off other people. The brilliant thing about it is it's so much more convenient than actually having to go to a car hire location, which might not be near, and queuing up and arguing with them about insurance and stuff like that. With this app, you literally just go on the app, you find a car near you, which is normally really, really close, sort everything out, and then when you get near the car, magically, in a way I don't understand, the app can unlock the car and the key's just inside waiting for you. So you don't even have to interact with a human. So if, like me, you live in London and public transport and Uber is really good, but there's just a couple of times a year when you need a car, it's a really good solution.
This next app I've mentioned before, but I just feel like endorsing again because it's probably the app that I have on my phone that's made the most positive impact on my life this year.
Candy Crush?
No, not Candy Crush, Rob. That was second. No, first for me this year was Fizz. Now, Fizz is an app that helps you sleep, but also can help you take a power nap. And Rob and I have quite a lot on the go, like many of us do these days. And, sometimes in the middle of the day, you can be worn down. But I'm one of those people that really just can't switch off and fall asleep straight away. With Fizz, it's got a nap setting. And if you pick it, I never fall asleep, but I go into more like a deep meditative state. And I always wake up refreshed. Whether I just do 12 minutes or 20 minutes, not a long time, just put it on for a little bit. But I've found so many times it's saved my day. If I've had to push on into the evening, that little lunchtime, 20 minutes, just to refresh, recharge, has made such a difference to me. You wouldn't think that just stopping for that amount of time would recharge your batteries that much, but it really does. And the fact that this app is free as well is absolutely fantastic. Yes, there are premium options that you can pay for. I've not needed to, but if they charge for this app, I'd pay for it because it's made such a great impact.
So, Rob, loads of good stuff this year. I really enjoy looking back and reminding myself of all the things I've discovered.
Yeah, it's been a great year for resources. And I think this year a really strong one on the books front. I really hope next year's just as strong because the impact a good book can make on your life is priceless. So here's to a strong 2020 of tech and resources.
So this week we've been looking back over 2019, and next week we're going to do the same thing in a slightly more personal, slightly more terrifying way. We're going to be looking back over the predictions that we made at the start of this year and seeing how we did. So make sure you join us for that one next Thursday. Until then, have a great week and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.